Welcome to our channel. We're back with another story. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and leave a comment. Now, let's get into the story. Enjoy listening. Hello, I'm going to share what happened to me with a friend. 2 years ago, my friend had a 7-month relationship. Let's call my friend Sla, and the person she was with Ahmet. Sla and Ahmet were a model couple, admired by everyone. They had a relationship that everyone envied. They broke up at the end of their 7th month. Sla was still in love with him. For some reason, she was angry with him. When they broke up, I was interested in magic. I had a friend, let's call her Isa. Isa's mother was a woman who dealt a lot with magic. One day when I was at Isa's house, I decided to go into her mother's room. I wanted to tell Isa about it. Isa hushed me. In a trembling voice. No, you can't. My mom would be very angry. They would be uncomfortable too, she said. She looked towards the door. I asked Isa who they were. They are them, she said, and closed the subject. We decided to watch a movie. I also said I would go to the bathroom and asked where it was. Isa said it was at the end of the hallway. Okay, I said and went. Isa was choosing a movie at that moment. As I walked down the hall, I noticed a slightly open room. Like everyone else, I have a curiosity. A voice inside me wanted me to enter that room. I also didn't want to enter. After going to the bathroom, I decided to go in. I opened the door a little more and looked inside. This was probably the room where her mother did magic. There were scarecrows resembling human figures in the corners of the walls. You know, like they put them in the fields to scare away crows. They were just like them. There was a round table in the middle of the room. A round table. There were nails in the corners of the star on it. There was also an eye in the middle. There was a bookshelf on the right side of the door. It had caught my attention when I entered the room. I wanted to rummage through it right away. I picked up a book. It had strange figures I had never seen before. And it was written in a language resembling Arabic. As I tried to read it, I heard my friend coming towards there. She opened the door and yelled at me, "What are you looking for in there? Get out of the room quickly." And I got out of the room, putting the book down. Then we watched the movie as if nothing had happened. About an hour later, her mother came home angrily. Suddenly, she grabbed me by the arm and took me out. I found myself in front of the door all of a sudden without understanding what had happened. I went home. I decided to write to Isa in the evening. I asked why her mother treated me like that. She replied that her mother saw you go in. I was surprised. How did she see me? I asked. She told my mother. I said, "Who are they?" "Who?" She said her mother's jinns. I was speechless. I couldn't come to my senses for a few minutes. After a while, I said, "Jinns? Jinns of your mother? Are there jinns?" "Yes, exactly what I told you. After seeing you, she hasn't written to me again." After thinking for a few days, I decided to research magic more. I started trying what I found. I tried for a long time. I did my last experiment on my ex-boyfriend. If this didn't work, I was going to give up hope. It was a binding spell I did. You've heard of voodoo dolls. I did it with it. I won't go into much detail. Maybe someone will try it. A week later, he apologized and wrote to me. Can we try again? He said. I was surprised. I started yelling that it happened at home. I wanted to tell Sla about this subject. And I invited her over. We had a cup of coffee. We sat until night and started preparing to do it. Everything was ready around 2 to 3 in the night. We started doing it. Sla was still uneasy. I told her to calm down. And we continued. Suddenly, Sla's phone screen went blank. She started screaming. Then, the candles started extinguishing one by one. The door and windows were banging loudly. The house started shaking as if an earthquake had struck. I was terrified too. It was the first time something like this had happened to me. After a while, it stopped. My friend said she wanted to go home. I told her we couldn't leave until morning. And we decided to sleep. Then, I woke up with a call to prayer. I started cleaning up as if nothing had happened. Instead of burning the paper of the spell we did out of fear, I scattered it in the middle of the fig and walnut trees in the garden. After I finished my work, I woke up my friend and took her home. 2 days later, in the middle of the night, Sla called me crying. She said the cabinet door was opening and closing. I told her to recite the prayers that came to her mind. She said she couldn't. Then, she hung up the phone. I started to get scared. I started thinking, what if they took her? I went to bed reciting prayers. When morning came, I called Sla and asked her what happened at night. She said she called Ahmet and told him everything. I called Ahmet. As soon as he heard my tearful voice, he asked if I was okay. I told him about the incident. He said he already knew all of this. He recited something like a prayer. Suddenly, the noises stopped. I calmed down. When I asked him how he knew, he began to explain. He said he saw them and they told him everything. Since then, every night, he had recited something similar to that prayer to Sla. After that day, nothing happened to me. During that time, Ahmet stopped calling Sla because he had another relationship. And Sla was already reciting the prayer by heart. Our relationship with Sla was strained, and she had stopped talking to me. I had a dream this month. It was as if it were the same day we did that spell. I felt like I was in it. We were inside a circle made of round candles. Suddenly, the door opened. 2 figures with black silhouettes entered and took us under the fig tree. They asked why we did it. Just as I turned my head towards my friend, she suddenly disappeared. They lifted me up in the air. You shouldn't have done this. We'll always be here from now on, they said and disappeared. Suddenly, I opened my eyes. I was lying under the fig tree. It was dark around me. I ran towards the door immediately. I started pounding on the door, yelling "Dad!" The door suddenly opened. My dad was lying in front of the door wrapped in a shroud. I screamed. I called out to my brother. When there was no answer, I ran to my brother. My brother was also on the ground, gnawing on human organs. He turned his head towards me. Just as he was about to come towards me, I suddenly opened my eyes again. This time I was in front of my friend's door. I called out to her, but she didn't respond. When I went inside, the house was empty. Sla was standing in a corner of a room. I was sure it was her, but the silhouette was not hers. I went to her. Suddenly, she turned to me and screamed, "It's all your fault." 3 beings took me away. One covered my mouth, the other covered my eyes. I opened my eyes in my bed, drenched in sweat, with the sound of the call to prayer. My clothes were full of dirt. I was scared. I changed my clothes and went to my dad's side. My dad was fine. My brother was fine too. I hugged them and went back to my room. I wanted to write to my friend Sla. I realized I didn't have her number. I had changed my phone. I didn't go to their house either. A week later, Sla wrote to me saying she had a dream. She said I came to her and was crying. She asked me why we did it. She said everything was happening to us because of them. And she woke up. She immediately wrote to me. I told her about the dream I had a week ago. She said it was because of the spell we did months ago. I agreed with her. We went to see a scholar. The scholar told us they were possessed. Sla's mother said the girl was crying while looking in the mirror. Don't let her cry in front of the mirror again, he said. He gave her a talisman. He said to put it under her pillow. He also said to me, you can't get your life back on track after those events, can you? Yes, I said. Then he asked me where I learned such things from. I told him everything from start to finish. He started reciting prayers for me. After he finished the prayer, he admonished me never to do such a thing again. Since that day, we haven't seen anything again. I hope we never do. Whatever you do, never do such things. That's the end of my story. I hope you read and share it. I wish everyone a good day. Thank you for listening. We've come to the end of our story. I thank the person who shared their story. Until we meet again in the next story, goodbye.